So yeah, thank you everyone. So this is a combination of a proposal that I made and Daniel Mietchen made that revolved around the same topic, right? So how we rewrite the SPARQL queries that somehow touched on the scholarly articles components of Wikidata. As you may know, they are not queryable in the same way as 1 year ago. So we need to think about ways to get the information around. So I'll start actually from the end and just acknowledge that I've been working as a contractor under a grant from the Wikimedia Switzerland to do some documenting about this. And this was led by Daniel Mietchen and Lane. So in the past few months, I've discussed and connected a bit more with different people that are documenting the graph split. It's a big challenge to document because there's a lot of different things going on in decision processes. And it's really a big infrastructure change in terms of search. So I thank all these different people for working together and getting this information clearer to the community. So this is like a micro timeline from the Wikidata query service from what I could gather. If I got something wrong, feel free also to interrupt me and say, hey, that's not exactly how it happens. But what I see around 2013, Wikidata come to life. It didn't have actually a query service at the moment. There were different ways of getting the data out. There was Magnus Munsky's WDQ, and eventually a need of having a Wikidata query service serving full SPARQL compliance appeared. And the foundation search team made a big spreadsheet. It's linked on the presentation, but I don't think I have put that in Commons yet. So I will just very quickly just share it with you so you can have the links. I am sorry. So yeah. Okay. Sorry for that. So there was a big spreadsheet discussing the different services that were available at that point, right? Blazegraph looks bad for some of us now, but it was actually a very decent decision back in the day. So I will defend the decision of using Blazegraph. It had full SPARQL support available. It was open source. It was a good decision. But then a few years later, suddenly many Blazegraph engineers became Amazon Neptune engineers. Amazon didn't buy Blazegraph, but they bought the people that were doing Blazegraph support, and they also bought the Blazegraph trademark. And suddenly updates to Blazegraph stopped. There was no big announcement of we're stopping support of Blazegraph forever, but it gradually became abandonware, and that's not good, especially when you have such an evolving community as Wikidata. The growth pains of Wikidata with WikiCite project putting a lot of information, but also with a lot of great volunteers trying to model the world. Things started getting hard to do with a query service that uses software that was abandoned. And the search team at the foundation and Wikimedia Deutschland started to doing updates about this scaling processes, thinking different futures, making calculations about when things would go wrong, and thinking about different backends that could replace Blazegraph. By 2022, there was no clear path for the backend. There are many different options with their pros and cons, and making a decision there is not easy because we don't want another Blazegraph situation where we commit to an infrastructure and it becomes unusable in a couple of years. So to buy us time to make a good decision there, it was decided that the scholarly graph would be split out from the main Wikidata graph so we could have time to do things and also experiment a bit more with federation between different knowledge bases that in the front end are the same. Wikidata still looks the same, Elasticsearch the same, the REST API works the same, but for SPARQL queries, we have federation. It started as an experiment in 2023, and then it became more serious, and it was really enforced on May this year. And many tools have been broken. Some have been adapted, and WikiCite happens. People discuss about this, and that's about where we are now, right? So some tools are broken, some are working, some are using a legacy service, and we need to think about the future in different ways. So to sum up, basically WikiCite or information about scholarly articles went to a graph, and everything else went to a different graph. So there's no duplication of content between the platforms. So the system in the background that is deciding if a triple goes to the main query service or the scholarly articles, it has a deterministic mechanism, and it goes to one or the other. There's no overlap between both. Not even for labels. This is important later on. So what exactly is on each graph, right? And it's important to remember that when I say graph, I'm just meaning the SPARQL query graph. There is one big graph of Wikidata, but that's not queryable via the main Wikidata endpoints, right? So this is about just a SPARQL query service. So there's a scholarly endpoint, and then there are about 50 different QIDs that if they are used as instance of values, it means that these items and their properties and values, so everything that has this item as a subject goes to the scholarly graph. Or if an item has a particular property that denotes scholarly works, they are also zarped to the scholarly graph. And everything else goes to query.wikidata.org. Right. It means that books in general are on query.wikidata.org, but scholarly articles are on Scholarly, and there are a few details there that you have to be aware of when actually building things on top of that. This is a bit outdated, but that's the slide I had about the size of the graph. So I was a bit impressed to know that there are actually more triples in the scholarly graph than in the main graph, right? So the size of WikiCite information is really, really big. And actually not all WikiCite information is on the scholarly graph, because there's author information and, I don't know, publishing houses and so on. And these all go in the main graph. So it's about half and half, 8 billion here, 8 billion there. This was done in purpose to kind of balance the load. But I think it's an interesting piece of information to know, right? So it's actually half and half in terms of size of number of triples. And how we can get information about articles on the query service now. So there's a query legacy full.wikidata.org. That's currently what Scholia uses in the backend for running the queries. This is supposed to stop working in a few days. I don't know if there are updates, Lydia or others in the foundation or in the Wikimedia Deutschland side know if there will be an extension or not. But this is supposed to not be used. This is just a stopgap measure while we adapt to the new situation, right? We can get information from the main endpoint, query.wikidata.org. If there are no articles in the query, via this endpoint, if only articles are included, but we need to do something called internal federation if we need to combine data from both graphs. And that's, in my personal opinion, where the most interesting queries are, right? When you can combine different bits of information. So I can go through the details of how we make a change, but this is kind of the overall anatomy of the change of the queries that were running, for example, in the Scholia platform before, and how they look after the split. So this is selecting for a particular target, so a particular piece of software. And this query is looking for works that use this software or a subclass of it, and returning with the dates to the user, right? Currently, if you run it on the legacy graph, you get 20 results. If you run it on main, you get only 4 results. Because some of the publications that use this software are not scientific articles in the graph split sense, right? So some information is one graph, some information is in the other. If you want the full picture, you need to unite these two things. So if you look now here on the well, my right side of the screen, and probably yours too, there's how the query would look like after adapting into the split. If you go, I'll quickly go through the query here. So there's the prefix target. So I'm fixing the target to be this piece of software. I'm selecting things where, and in the where clause, I have something that is slightly more advanced, and that's a Blazegraph specific hint. And these hints tell the system to not try and optimize the order where it does the queries in the graph. And that's basically because the system sometimes gets confused with federation. So you need a bit more low-level control about how it's doing the search in the backend itself, right? So you need often these kind of optimizations. And then I'm getting the pieces of software from the main graph, so the subclasses of this software. And then I'm running the same query as before, but split. First, I do a service, and the service goes to the scholarly article subgraph. So this is the internal federation syntax. It's getting this information from the scholarly subgraph. And with a union clause, I combine this with information that is being retrieved from the main graph. And then I get the full picture of the result. So that's generally the anatomy of a query in the new situation with the two different graphs. I've set some examples that you can find more about this in the query service itself. This is actually broken right now. For some reason, these examples are in the source page, but are not appearing in the query service. But if you go to the example page, like Wikidata, column SPARQL query service /query/examples, these examples are there. Eventually, they will be in the query service back again. I just have to figure out what's really happening there. And I've also made this little like semi-vibe coded small application that you just get. You put in a query and it runs the different endpoints. So you can see a bit how long it takes in each of them, and also the number of results to see if this query is a scholarly only, as a standard only, or if it's showing results in both graphs and you need something more complex. So this is a small tester that you can use to just test how a query performs in different endpoints. Documents, oh, this is from WikiCite. I forgot to change the thing, but the format. But the documents about the split are split around many different places. The main one is this Wikidata SPARQL query server / WDKS graph split. We also made a different flavoring of this documentation, a bit more oriented towards WikiCite stakeholders, and it's on MetaWiki /wiki /WikiCite/split. So there are these different places where you can find information about the graph split and understand a bit more with different levels of explanation. So now I kind of like have two options here, and I'll just stop sharing a bit. So just so I can ask you. So there are two things we could do now. Have I stopped sharing? I think so. There are two things that we can perhaps do now. One of them is I have some extra slides that go in more detail about how to prepare a query for the graph split, or and a bit more like low-level details on the SPARQL changes that are needed. Or we can go to a more duathon thing. I don't know if Daniel has arrived. And yeah, Daniel is here. I don't know if Daniel has an option. So I wanted like to leave this space a bit more open because we need we need to see. I don't know who is here and what's the interest is. So I think we can go and try and maybe we can start with questions, and then perhaps I can go back and show more slides, and we can do a duathon eventually. But I think that it would be most valuable for us if we got some discussions around than just showing a lot of low-level details about SPARQL. So yeah, maybe we can go to questions and a big Brazil flag on the chats. That's fine. maybe there were a few questions in the chat also, but if anyone wants to open the microphone and ask, that would also be great. Comments are also welcome. So, well,
I saw one about whether we envision similar graph splits in the future. And I would say, as long as we stick with Blazegraph, the answer is probably yes. On the other hand, if we don't stick with Blazegraph, then maybe we don't need it. We don't know yet. But maybe Lydia wants to say more about this.
Yeah, I think the problem, or well, not the problem, the tricky piece is that for the scholarly articles, it was a very well-defined and large corpus. I'm not sure we have equally well-defined and yet not ultra-entangled other pieces like it that would warrant it size-wise and pain-wise. So given the current makeup of the data, probably not. If we have other really, really huge imports, then probably yes. But I would hope that we are at a point where those things go into a separate Wikibase instance in the first place, as opposed to right into Wikidata. Nicola, yeah, a billion stars, for example. Let's please not.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing, right? So I wonder how, because there's a big Wikibase ecosystem, and federating things across Wikibases is possible in theory and could be done more. So maybe not splitting out of Wikidata, but splitting before things get into Wikidata. So perhaps Nicholas will make a Wikibase with a billion stars, perhaps not using Blazegraph somewhere, and then connect the information. So I think that's one of the possible futures there, is that we don't split things out of Wikidata, but we just put them somewhere else in the first place in an integrated manner. But I think that SPARQL Federation, internal or otherwise, is also, it has a lot of different caveats, and the tooling is not as mature as we would expect for something that's been going on for a few decades. So there are challenges there also with getting the information across different platforms, right? So there is that. And the legacy query service, there were a few questions about that. I thought the last date was around November something, but maybe it was changed and it's on January. I don't know if Lydia has a few thoughts that she might be sharing on the legacy and when, and if it's, well, anything about the legacy graph or.
Yeah. So it's ultimately up to the team at the foundation, the new Wikidata platform team that is responsible for the query service now. But my understanding is that the current plan is end of the year. If that poses huge issues for someone, let's have that conversation with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is also something like, I think it's good to have a very open space to talk about these things, because it's not always easy to understand all the different details about the graph split or the SPARQL query service at some point. So for those of us that are in the Wikidata community, but not always in the tech parts of the details, it's not super clear which bits of the SPARQL query service are run by Wikimedia Deutschland and the ones that are run by the foundation. And there were different teams over time, and the search team has great people, but they also do all different kinds of searches, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But now there are people particularly for Wikidata on the foundation, Lydia. Is that correct, or am I?
Yeah. So until recently, the search platform team at the foundation was responsible for the query service backend. And they have handed this over now to a new dedicated team, the Wikidata platform team, that is responsible for the query service backend now. On the Wikimedia Deutschland side, we're responsible for the UI that you see at query.wikidata.org, for example, and the general overall Wikidata picture, of which the query service is, of course, a part.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I think that's clarifying. That's good, Lydia. So maybe Nicholas has asked if anyone has a broken query to fix. We could try and go together over one query to see how it adapts on the GraphSplat. I can go back. I don't know if Daniel wants to share anything in particular because he's also presenting about Scholia in the next session. But I can also go back to the slides, show a bit more things if it's not too boring, and we can go through a few examples and discuss a bit more. If that's okay, send me an okay message, and then we can proceed with that.
I'm fine to proceed. Yes, we have the other session later on. So first, let's do the hands-on, whatever people want here.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna just share my screen and show a few more slides, and then go to a more hands-on ish activity, and we go through and figure out a bit of the challenges there. Makes sense. I will screen share again. All right. So, okay. So I had a few more slides. This is basically from WikiCite about how you would change a query. So, for example, some queries have property paths that connect, that are like shorthands for different things. For example, in this case, we have a line saying a work. It uses a subclass of star a target, right? So subclass or a subclass of subclass, etc., of a particular target item. And this slash symbol, it works.
Tiago, I think we lost you to the Wi-Fi.
Sorry, folks, we're just having some teething problems.
Daniel, do you by any chance want to explain?
Well,
in the scholarly graph, and if you okay.
Now I can hear you again.
Okay, I was off.
Yes.
I will go. Maybe I can go slowly, because if I go fast, perhaps it just doesn't compute the bytes, the bit rates. I know.
Yeah. Can you go back one? We did not see this one yet, and before that, this is where you cut off, where you're explaining the property path.
Yeah. Okay. So the property paths, they are a way to kind of, thank you, Lydia. They are a way to sometimes for simplified syntax, let's say in the SPARQL query. And if you're going to use the split, you cannot use these property paths. You need to open up them so you can get part of the information from one graph and part of the information from the other. And for that, you need to figure out which parts of your query are actually coming from which graph. So in this case, the work projection may be coming from the scholarly graph, if it's the work is an article, or the main graph, if it's a book, for example. The direct target, in this case, is a piece of software. Softwares are in the main graph. The publication date for the work, if it's an article, it comes from the scholarly graph. If it's if it's a book, it comes from the main graph. So you need to kind of go through these one by one and see where they come from. Then you need the service keyword and the internal federation syntax to get this information there. Service WG subgraph scholarly articles, and this makes a query in the main service federate or get some of the information from the other query service. At this point, this query gives you 16 results because it's only getting the information from the works that are in the scholarly graph. So I can add a union there and get the information from both graphs. But if I do this, I get a timeout. And I get this timeout because Blazegraph, as I mentioned, an abandonware, is not super good at figuring out how it should do this query. So it tries to kind of getting all the information from the different graphs before filtering by the software pieces. So we need to deal with this timeout and add a hint that says, please run first this bit and then the other bits. And it's a bit of low level, but that's what you need to make it really work in practice, right? And another thing was an extra bit. This is not super hands-on, but that's kind of hands-on-ish. So before the split, if you had no service Wikibase label, you would get no labels at all. But if you added this service Wikibase label, this special magic thing, you would then get the labels for the work and the authors. For this particular query with Lydia, of the works that were written by Lydia, right? Sorry, Lydia, to put you on the spot again, but yeah, anyways, it was a good example. But now, if you run a query like this, you see, doing a federation, so I am getting the author QID, looking for works in the scholarly graph, then using the service Wikibase label keyword, I get the labels for Lydia, but for some reason, for the works, I get just the QIDs. So I don't get a label. These labels are not stored in the main graph, but for some reason, it retrieves the QIDs as strings. I don't know exactly why, but that's probably not the behavior that you want when you want to get labels. You would expect kind of having labels as before, but you need actually to run the label service twice, one inside the main graph and one inside the federation query. But to run the service label inside the federation query, you need to make it a subquery actually, and add the select statement for that. So this becomes a bit more involved, but this is the type of changes that you need if you want to use the service Wikibase label from both graphs. So that's, and then you get the behavior as you wanted before. Basically, this service gets the author label and the other gets the work label, and if you get both together, you get both labels, right? So there are many questions that we could get, like the MediaWiki Action API. Can I do it from both graphs? Can I do it in different ways? And if I have works in both endpoints, how can I get the labels there? Is the split making queries actually faster, or no big changes now? Are we going to get timeouts, or more timeouts, or less timeouts with the federation? Will I need to rewrite these queries again in the future? So all these questions appear, and they don't have easy answers in different ways, right? And I would make just a side note to QLever. That's one of the different platforms that could perhaps replace Blazegraph. And it has been the go-to option for many people that want fast performance in a particular set of queries. So I think that at this point, everyone that uses SPARQL Query Service should be aware of QLever and at least use it in different ways. But it's important to note that it doesn't use Blazegraph syntax. So a lot of the things that we use in the Wikimedia ecosystem, they are not SPARQL specific, they are Blazegraph specific. And so these need to be changed. And maybe Daniel is going to talk a bit more of that in the next session about Scholia and so on. But we can also go and try and do it from scratch and see how we perform in doing these things together, right? And please do interrupt me and ask questions if you have them. I'm just gonna get the link here for the Etherpad, and I'm going to go through one of these queries randomly and try and do. You can, if you have a query that you would want me to work on, I can use it, but I'll start by this one that is just here. I'll just add my name next to the name of the query just to, although if anyone else wants to work in parallel, you're welcome. This might not be the case, but all right. So we'll just get this query and let's go in query legacy fo.wikidata.org and let's try and run it there. Svelehaft. So, oh yeah, okay. So
the horizontal line.
Yeah, sorry. All right, so yeah, thanks, Daniel. So then it runs normally, right? So these are the different pieces of software that are co-used with NELTK. It's a particular thing. All right, so the natural language toolkit, that's the software we are looking for. And these are softwares that are co-used with that, right? So scikit-learn, Wikidata, Matplotlib, and so on. 58 results. And this is in the query legacy graph, right? So let's try and run it on query.wikidata.org and see what we get here. We got less results, but we get some results nevertheless. These works are probably not scholarly articles. So there's a book, for example, it's a written work, but it's not going to the scholarly graph. Okay, and just for completeness, I'll try and run it on QLever also, just to see what happens with this particular query. If we execute it there was invalid SPARQL query token with was not recognized, and that's because this particular syntax with as result is Blazegraph specific. So it's not standard SPARQL, and it won't work on other engines that are compliant with the SPARQL standard, but not compliant with Blazegraph specific. Thanks. So let's start and try and decompose or denormalize, perhaps, if you want to make or this query in a different way. But yeah, so maybe here we have the property path. So I will split it apart. This should run exactly as before. Oops. Yeah. I need also to put the work here. Interesting. So it's taking a lot of time. Sometimes the property paths make things faster to go. But the result in the end was the same, right? So then we got in optimization land, and it's tricky. But yeah, it ran, it got the information. It's here. Let's see what else we could do. So now maybe I would try to remove the Blazegraph specific syntax. What I could do here is first select this information, where, and then make it all of this together in a single big subgroup, right? So I just remove the different. So if you are confused about what I'm doing, you can ask me. Maybe I am also confused about what I'm doing, so we can have some back and forth. And that's the thing. This might have some issues. Okay, yeah, I have a, okay. I need actually to separate this subquery. It failed late. So yeah, okay. So here we have a subquery that is doing the selection of the information, and then this is, and after it selects these things, we run the Wikibase label service and then do the count. So this is mostly standard SPARQL, but not exactly because of the label service. This is Wikimedia specific kind of syntax. Not Blazegraph specific, but Wikimedia specific things. So this will, I think this is correct SPARQL, but it will take forever to run. It will probably time out. Oh, it didn't. Good. It worked as before. So we could refactor this query and got the same results, but now without using the Blazegraph syntax. Performance is much worse, right? So this wouldn't be good in practice, but it's more standardized and more flexible to other systems. The fact that you can write things in different ways and performance is not the same, this isn't like my fault, right? Theoretically, this optimization should be the system's responsibility. That's the whole idea of having a high-level language and a system that works in the background, is that the language just tells me what I want, and the systems figure out how it's going to do it. Again, another mark of using a software that is not being actively improved. It's often these little details that then make something not work in production, right? So this is good, but if I put this on QLever, it won't really run because of the label service. And then, oh yeah, and then there's, yeah, the prefix doesn't work on QLever and the service itself doesn't work too. So I'll just remove this line and run it. It didn't run again. Why? So now, now, oh yeah, target here, it should run. Interesting. Okay. If anyone can spot where the error is, just let me know. I'm trying to run here without the label service. It should work, but not get the labels. Yeah, that's what I expected. I just put it back again.
What would happen if you delete the direct target and make it a path query?
If I delete it, like
no,
here?
no, line 11 and 12, merge 11, merge line 11 and 12. Not delete, but make it the way it was originally, without the direct target.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah, good. Yeah, this should be working on QLever because it's only one database, so it should work. But there's something that I'm getting wrong here somewhere, and I'm not really figuring out what. Maybe, let me just try this also. It could be that this is the reason. Not really.
What about removing the subquery? You have a query in a subquery.
Yeah, true. I would just actually like remove the super query. And it might be easier to debug. I don't really need the other query right now because of many reasons. That's a good suggestion. So order by desk, I think it was desk count. There's something happening here. I'm not really sure what is not working. Let's just sanity check if QLever is working fine. Yeah, it is. Target thing. Error processing query. Prefix target was not defined.
Well, what about removing a P279? Perhaps that's the one that.
Oh yeah, I think that's actually the filter query that might have some issues here. I don't know exactly why. So this is one of the things. QLever has also some different. It's not fully implemented, so this particular bit may not be implemented. The filter co-used different from target. So if I take this out, I actually get like the information. So there will be some repetition here, but the information is there. Interesting. Let's just me try again like this and just, yes, that was the problem, Ash. I don't know why. So yeah. So that's the reason. So sometimes we ask ourselves, why don't QLever is accepted directly as the backend? And maybe there are little details that need to be worked out and figured out. So maybe this particular syntax is not supported for some reason, or I am not seeing something here. This might be Blazegraph specific, and I not remember it correctly.
And maybe if you run into stuff like that, do report it to the Clever team so they can look into.
Yes. I will send them the recording. I'll do it after, I guess. I think, or I could do it now, and also like it's also something, but maybe I'll just go back and try and get the query running in the new setup so we can go through the split.
Nikki is asking, shouldn't it be question mark target and not target colon?
So this is okay.
I think maybe that's the reason we are misusing the prefix kind of variable, and maybe that is something that.
Yeah, this is not like we have Blazegraph syntax, we have Wikidata syntax, and then we have Scholia conventions on how to use the system. And this might be one of the reasons why. So I will just try and remove the Scholia conventions here. The question mark target, yes, if it would be a variable, but it's actually not a variable. It's just a fancy way of setting up a fixed kind of thing. So let's see if it works like that. No, it doesn't. So yeah, it's that was just like the Scholia style of doing things, but it didn't affect the QLever service. So I think this is something that should be looked into with more detail. It might be just the filter clause not working as expected. I don't know if we could use something like minus values co-used.
You can probably cast them to a string, both of them.
Cast them to a string and then compare the strings.
str and then compare them.
This actually worked. So yeah, this is supposed to be kind of equivalent. This should be like equivalent syntaxes in a sense. but this doesn't do, that gives me nothing. This gives me 59, so it gets repetition, right? And if I do the minus, I get 58. So it works, but you shouldn't use future, but use minus. Casting as strings, it could probably work too. That's also a good idea. Yeah. Okay. Right. I think that's a good demo of the kind of stuff that you work when you try to move things around. In this particular case, filter is standard SPARQL, right? It's just not implemented by the QLever team yet, or implemented in a different way. So these things happen. It's not easy to make a system that complies with all the bits of the standard, right? And makes it in a performative, efficient way. Okay, but we managed to run it on QLever. It just doesn't have the labels yet. So QLever has an automatically add names to result button. I actually don't know if that works. Okay, there was a memory limit during the computation of a cross product, so this didn't actually work. Maybe I'll need to go the old way and co-used RDFS label, co-used label, or in this case, it suggested me to use underscore. So, and then I go just, I wonder if future is going to work now as I expect.
Yeah, Daniel was saying that QLever does support filter, but maybe not the specific syntax you were using.
So yeah, maybe it doesn't support like this one. Oh, yeah, it is supporting.
Yeah. And if you run into issues, definitely support it upstream, because they've been very responsive to tickets.
Yes, I will ask them. Probably like it's something that I'm not seeing, but here there's an X. But it's okay. But it's getting the co-use label here in English, even though there's a big red X there. I might maybe seeing a point or something. Work RDFS label, work label, and then I'll just get it in English. So the memory limit was seeded. If I put it here, work label selected but aggregated. Okay, so that actually shouldn't work because it's not. Let me see. And then, oh, I need example work label. That's what's getting me the problem, because I'm exporting example work, and I need actually the example work label. Oops. Example underscore work and example underscore work.
You need an E on an example.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, good catch. And I get nothing, and I don't get an error. That's the weird part, right? So there's... Anyways, I won't go through this more. There's something happening, and I'm not really sure what it is. It might be I'm missing a line somewhere. This was working just fine. It's not anymore. I am doing something wrong somewhere here. Maybe this was this filter that was, yeah. Okay, there was a filter up there that was not getting the correct things. So example work, REFS label, example work label. Not the autocomplete completes with a different casing than the query service. So this is also something to note. And yeah, okay, it worked eventually. Less lines because perhaps some of them don't have titles in English. They have titles in French or whatever. But that's the general idea of it. So maybe we just come back here and try and do like this was the legacy one. Maybe we try and move it to main and try to run it now. And it gets some results again, but not all of them. So we need to do the bit where we actually get the information about the co-use things from the service. WD sub. Now I have to check the syntax again. There's no autocomplete for that yet. WD subgraph, scholarly articles. That's it. WD subgraph, scholarly. So no autocomplete. I'm yeah. So this is something that could be improved on the UI side. Scholarly graph, work and future co-use equals target. Service UI is not allowed. Maybe scholarly graph. Maybe I misspelled it. Scholarly articles. Scholarly articles. Yeah. Okay. It's not allowed because it doesn't exist. And then I get 0 results doing like that. Probably because of this future, because the future, I don't know, not really because of the future. Actually, I need to do it like this also, because I need to get the work that uses the direct target, and then I get the co-used. Okay, that worked. Not in full, but that worked as expected, in a sense. So I'll try and get the union here and make a union of this part with the part below. So I'm getting this information from the scholarly graph, and I'll get the same information from the main graph. And I'll just make it look a bit better because it's getting big and confusing. I probably missed some closing thing. So here, select where. So it's doing it in both graphs. So now we may have the issue that it will time out because it doesn't have the hint. So it's trying to do things in a way that are not optimal. So I need to go there and remember the hint syntax: hint query, hint optimizer none, hint query, hint optimizer none, and no enum constant, none. Maybe yeah, none should be capitalized. And then it works. Yeah. Just in time to finish the session. So, and that's it. So now we have a version of the query that was adapted to the split. As you may see, it can take more. What?
Actually, the problem is the labeling. You haven't labeled the works, and this is very difficult. At least I haven't found out, because you need to label the same variable both from the main graph.
Oh yeah, true. exactly.
as well as the scholarly graph, and that's sort of a major headache that I have had.
True, you're correct. I mean, it's not done. Oh yeah, because I would need to run this from like a subquery perhaps. So I would need to go here and select another subquery here, and perhaps, or no, I need a subquery in here. Huh. So select work and co-used where let me see if this will work. So select work and co-used where you get things from the scholarly graph with the service label, and then I also return because it's example work, so it's sampled. So maybe this is not trivial. I don't know. I won't have time to do this, but that's a good question and perhaps a good example that we're not able to do it in half an hour. So this is a long kind of. There's probably a way to do it. Maybe one would give up the service Wikibase and just go with getting example work, RFS label, example work label, and the code.
As we're about to hit the end of the session, Tiago, thank you so much for being very brave to do this live. That's amazing. For people who are not as proficient in SPARQL, what's the best way for them to get some help with rewriting queries that they need? Where do they go?
I don't know. I think no one is super proficient in doing this, right? I think the best people to actually do this are in this room. So if you feel like you can give some people help on doing that, just raise your hand in the chat. I can try and help, but it will be somewhat like this. I've been doing this for a while, and I also find it's like already hard to do it. AI cannot do it really well at this moment. Maybe we can find a way to put all of this in an MCP or something, so AI would just magically do it. You could go and request a query, but I don't know, Nikki, how many people are willing, because it's a lot of work to actually do this. So maybe we can get people, right? Ismail, if you can get ChatGPT to do this kind of rewriting, please tell me how. Please tell me how, right? Because there's a lot of details there that are not quite easy, right? But thanks, everyone. And I hope this was mildly interesting to you. And so we almost could do it, But thank you very much for bearing with me through this. And see you next time then. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Tiago. And people who are as brave, please do help on the request a query page to help people through some of the graph split pain.